Good morning. Happy Tuesday to everybody. Sorry for the little bit of delay. I had some technical difficulties on my end. And of course, I was saying, and I will say this, happy birthday. I want to start off the show by saying happy birthday to my son, Titan, who turned 6 years old today. I hope you have a fantastic day at the water park. Love you, miss you. Can't wait to see you soon. So happy birthday to my youngest son. But we've got a lot of celebration, a lot of things to talk about. Good morning to you, Alex. How are you doing?
Good morning to you, sir. And certainly happy birthday to your son. Six, you said?
6 years old, yep.
It's a big year. My son is 6. My son is 6, and he certainly loves water parks too. Which water park is he at?
He's down in Mexico, so there'll be some Mexican water park that he will be in today.
Nothing like those Mexican water parks, man. Nothing like those Mexican water parks.
Hopefully they're up to code is all I can say. Hopefully they're up to code.
I don't think the kids care, and man, even though it's Mexico, I'm sure that they'll be able to find some good chicken tenders or fries or burgers or whatever it is he's wanting down there, even if it's not Mexican food. Listen, it's going to be a big recruiting weekend coming up, and we'll have a lot of content this week, sort of previewing what's going to be happening with the official visitors that will be in during this period. Actually, Cody Carpentier and I both will have columns at Orange Bloods where we'll kind of do our breakdowns of these guys. I think it's 16 of them coming in. So we have Lance Jackson, the defensive end, Dalen McCutchen, the wide receiver. Of course, Lance Jackson already committed to Texas. Nikolai Brooks, the offensive tackle. Jonte Newman, an offensive tackle that is currently committed to Texas A&M, will be in town. Jonathan Cunningham, a linebacker, kind of edge, outside linebacker type. Decorian Moore, who is, I need to turn off these texts. How do I do that? Just
I don't know. And hey, it's not as bad as when we start getting messages on our whatever communication channel during our shows.
Yeah, but this is bad because Byron and Cody and all these guys are texting back about the training camp tour. How do I just silence this thing?
I don't know,
Cody, man. If you're watching, quit texting, please. Let's see here.
It's your phone. I can't tell you. I'm sure you have an Android because you're anti-Apple for whatever.
I'm not anti-Apple. There's no way I'd use one of those creepy Androids. Jonathan Cunningham, Decorian Moore, the wide receiver, of course. Ricky Stewart, who's committed to Texas, will be in town. Dorian Brew, a sick cornerback. Lamont Rogers, an offensive lineman. John Mills from California, the offensive tackle. Brandon Brown, who's committed to Texas, who took a visit to LSU last week, the defensive tackle. Riley Pettijohn. This is a big week on more. Kelshawn Johnson, the wide receiver. Smith Orogbo, the weak side defensive end. Andrew Marsh, the wide receiver. And Kevin Wynn, a 4-star defensive tackle. So 2 defensive tackles, 16 total guys. Today we're going to talk about the wide receivers who are going to be on campus. Those, of course, Dalen McCutchen, Decorian Moore, Kelshawn Johnson, and Andrew Marsh. 3 guys with some different skill sets, but could certainly bring some real different stuff here to the team. Oh, hey, by the way, is Jason coming on today? As
9:30, I sent him a link.
Okay, cool. So we have Jason. Coming on. Which one of these guys do you want to start? I mean, is it just we have to start with Decorian Moore?
It's so funny because what's funny, Alex? I was like, let's not do Decorian Moore. Let's save it for last. So I was actually thinking, let's not do Decorian Moore, and then of course, because we always talk about Decorian Moore. So
fair enough.
How about this? Well, Decorian Moore he's the easiest one. What do you think? You want to start with? I want to start with Dalen McCutchen. What do you think about him? Because I watched his huddle. I'm sure you've done some breakdowns on him. Give me your thoughts out of the kid out of Lovejoy. A little bit of an undersized kid, but he's definitely got a really good skill set out there.
Yeah, let me get his rivals profile pulled up so I can just see. We can just talk about the measurables that we have on him over there, and also just look at some of his offers and stuff. So, he's a 4-star on Rivals with a 5.9 4-star. So that's sort of like there's 3 levels of 4-star. That's the middle one, right?
Mm-hmm. Rivals should do a 6-star. It's really. It's too much middle ground here. I mean, they've got to separate this. Anyway, that's just my thought.
It's hard for me to. It's hard for me to remember. I feel like it's so funny to catch really when he talks about these super blue chips and stuff. He talks about he talks about how it's only important if they're the highest four-star. Now that's only at certain positions, I guess. I'm not sure if it, but McCutchen. So look, here's the thing, dude. What you have to do with these guys is just look at the offers sometimes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when a dude's got Alabama, he's got Florida State, he's got Ohio State, he's got Texas, USC, like all these other ones. It's like you got to go, Ole Miss, Michigan, Missouri. You got to scroll way down before you even start getting to the, Kansas States and the Memphises and the Illinois of the world and stuff like that. There's a lot of Penn States. There's a lot of Oklahomas, Notre Dames. You know what I mean? Stuff like this. Texas A&M. Lots of big schools. Whenever I watched him, and like I said, I've kind of watched him a couple times, but I had some notes here that I want to pull up and sort of make sure. So Lucas Lovejoy, isn't that where Parker Livingstone went? That's where Parker Livingstone went, right? And so
that might be right. You might be right on that one.
That is right. But so if after Livingstone left in 2020, so actually, wait, Livingstone played last year there, but he got hurt. Mm-hmm. Remember, he got hurt, and so after Livingstone got hurt, this guy goes nuts. What, 92 catches, almost 1,500 yards, and 19 touchdowns in 2023. So he's only 5'11", very elusive after catch. Right, what they do is they find all kinds of ways to get him the football. As far as 4'5", you can probably give some clips pulling up here. Yeah, you can tell he's a pretty high cut guy. Whenever he gets in the open field, is a little bit of a longer strider than you would think when he's getting up to full speed. Maybe takes a little bit longer than usual, certainly longer than a Decorian Moore to get from his second gear to his third gear. But good body control. You like the way that he moves. He can play both in the slot and outside. I think that he has a lot of polish as a route runner. You can see some of his stem work right there in his feet. Really good as far as not wasting any motion coming in and out of those breaks. You can tell his trainer gets pumped up about that rep on the comeback route. But like I said, pretty good polish as a route runner. I think at the next level, he plays in the slot. I think he plays in the slot at the next level. He can play both slot and outside at the high school level. I'm not and dude, if you look at Lovejoy, I'm not from that part of Texas. I'd not spend much time in that part of Texas, but you look at the huddle reel and the teams he's playing against and stuff, it feels like they play in a good district, like they play versus good teams. So the other thing is too, I like the quarterback at Lovejoy. I don't know who he is. I think he's good. He gives McCutchen chances. To me, whenever I watched him, just the lateral agility, the quickness, there's something, and it might be that he wears that number 11. That just, and here's the other thing. He's big on Ohio State. He wears that Ohio State number 11, and he's there, taking the pictures in their little lounge and stuff like that. He kind of looks like Jackson Smith and Jigba to me. Yeah, he has the same sort of lateral agility, the same sort of quicks, the same sort of no wasted motion in the routes. Very good body control. You can see every now and then he has the ability to make real highlight grabs, really position his body, frame the football, track the football. And, you see on his even on his huddle highlights, 2 or 3 times where he makes kind of the one-handed sideline catches.
Yeah, he loves those one-handed catches, doesn't he?
Yeah. So, I think he's a good player. He's a take all the way. I'll be interested to hear from Jason whether he's, because it's felt for so long like, Khalid Lockett, Jamie French, Decorian Moore were the 3 that everybody was sort of hoping for. And what Jason's been saying is that, he likes Texas's chances individually with each one. If he had to put a bet down on each one, he'd say, I would put the bet on Texas to get this guy. But he said, if you're asking me for collectively, if they're going to get all 3 of those guys, he'd say that he would bet against that.
Yeah. So, hey, Alex, there's someone outside my door. I don't know what the hell's going on. I'll be right back.
Okay. So so Onwar is going to be right back. So that's sort of the deal with McCutchen. And look, if I, I I was going to say this to Onwar, and I know he's going to want to do Decorian Moore last. Whenever we talk about all these guys, it's like kind of not fair to compare him to Decorian Moore. I don't think, because whenever you look at it's all because then what we would just say is like all these guys, they're not as good as him. But I don't think that that's any reason to say that this is a dude who is not going to be super super good. And I think if he does end up going to Ohio State, you read the interviews about him, and the interviews of him coming out of his official to Ohio State, and he's just like, they talked about how they're going to use me and Brian Hartline. We had a long, 2-hour one-on-one meeting, and, all this stuff. We had Coach Day this, Coach Day that. He says he feels really, really at home there. So I do think that McCutchen is I've gotten to the point where I'm just Ohio State has done such a good job, not only with churning these guys out, but also with kind of choosing the right ones, right? Just choosing the dudes who look like they're going to be really good. And whenever they can recruit these elite guys and then churn out these elite guys in the NFL draft, and like we're talking elite of the elite, first round, just awesome. Marvin Harrison Jr., Chris Olave, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Garrett Wilson. That's an epic run before we even start talking about the guys that came at the earlier part of Brian Hartline's career there as the wide receivers coach. Some of the guys like KJ Hill got drafted. Was Curtis Samuel? I wonder if that could have been a little bit before his time, but certainly Terry McLaurin, right? This type of player. It's been a big run there. And so, like I said, whenever I told you I was worried about Decorian Moore's trip to Ohio State, like on the flip side of that, if a guy's going to visit Ohio State's hiring him, they want him. I would think if Texas were able to, make a run on this guy or make a push for him, it could end up being one that could be valuable for the Longhorns, especially considering it's like they're really stacked at the outside wide receiver positions, but at the slot, really you have DeAndre Moore and you have Ryan Niblett. So do any further thoughts that you have on McCutchen and who the hell was at your door?
So thank you, Alex. I do have some more thoughts. Yeah, so I've got this fountain, this outdoor fountain, and the pump went out. So I asked them could they get here at 10 o'clock, but then they were out there.
What kind of fountain?
It's one of those like big, huge vase kind of things, and you plug it in, and it's just like
it's got water comes out like a water feature.
Comes out like it's a huge one. It's freezes in the winter, unfortunately, because something you can really do about that. But it's out in a little courtyard area, so they were out there for that. So
you want to just drain it when you know it's going to freeze.
Yeah, I mean, nowadays I should, but then I don't know.
It doesn't crack the base whenever it freezes or stuff.
Well, I worry if there's no water in there that the whole thing might crack.
No. You can take the water out, man. Just
anyway, Alex, we'll do home improvement later.
Okay.
So there's a first of all, one thing I like about you mentioned this trainer. This trainer is Margin Hooks. And I'm a huge Hooks guy. I'm a huge Hooks fan.
I love me some Hooks, man.
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy that we know he's trained the Evan Stewarts of the world. We know he's trained Jonte Cooks. The list of what he's done, Charleston Rambos, goes on and on. So
I've been doing this too long, man. Whenever I first started doing this, Hooks was just kind of coming up in the game, dude. It's crazy. Now, like him, D-Rob, Clay Mack, dude, all those guys have gone big, dog. Like I love to see it, but they've always been awesome trainers, man. Like
so he's one of those guys. And so so I like that from at least from pedigree. I know what kind of work he's getting, and I know what kind of receiver whoever school ends up landing him. But I like him. Like I said, about that 6 foot 175-ish range, Alex. So not like what we saw yesterday where we were talking about that the receiver, that huge monster receiver we were talking about yesterday. But the thing I've noticed is in man coverage, he's unstoppable. I saw teams putting man coverage on him, and I was just like, why would you put yourself through that? Like, you can't do that. Like, you better cloud him. That's about the only way you can really hope for it. But he blows by everybody. He's a burner. He's a typical burner that you want to see. Like you said, put up the good numbers, that are out there, played against really good competition. So, I like him, Alex. He's a take. I don't know. Yeah. Like, he's got a lot of offers. But he's a guy that if he says I want to commit over the weekend, you say yes.
Yeah. You say yeah. And dude, I think that when you look at what that Lovejoy team was like when they had Livingstone and they had McCutchen, both those two guys play off each other really well stylistically. It's cool that for him he can go from being a guy that might have been used as more of the kind of bubble screen, get it to him in space, more kind of slot, sort of change of direction, big, like over the middle, quick stuff, and be able to use him on the outside. Like, as you said, if he gets even with them, he's absolutely leaving them to be able to pick up and on just a pure volume standpoint to go for such a big year. Like, it goes to show that he's a baller. Let's see. We have next up, which one do you want to talk about? Andrew Marsh?
Yeah, let's do Marsh. Let's do Andrew Marsh.
Okay, so Marsh, let me get his Rivals thing pulled up.
Yeah, go ahead and do that. Let me get to his Twitter account and see if there's anything I can use. I feel like we don't get tagged much on the Twitter stuff as we use the huddle. That seems to be like the issue.
Yeah, I got it. Whenever we talk about DK Moore, I got an Instagram one that D-Rob shared just yesterday that I wanted to show. They're trying to get him a NIL deal from those drinks, those Prime, Prime. He's trying to. I guess the kid loves Prime. Anyway, so Andrew Marsh, Katy, Texas. So from Katy Jordan, he has a Rivals ranking of a 6.04 star. So the highest possible 4-star for this guy. He's ranked number 48, number 41 nationally, number 7 overall in the state of Texas by Rivals. Number 8 nationally as far as wide receivers. So we're talking about a dude with just who everybody wants. Alabama, Georgia, Auburn. I'm just looking here, like, this is an alphabetical order, but Michigan, Ole Miss, Ohio. Look, like once again, if Ohio State's on them, I'm interested.
Yeah.
Oklahoma's on them. Penn State, Tennessee, Texas. Dude, everybody's offered him. Okay. Yes. Everybody's offered him. Whenever I first did my work on Andrew Marsh a few months ago, I just said to myself that his real superpower is just, really good versatility. Can you deploy him in a whole lot of ways? And really plays with a ton of swag. And it isn't the same kind of swagger as, like I said, maybe not quite like a Decorian Moore.
Billy Tucker, I'm going to use some of your highlights. So I'm going to tell you, shout out to Billy Tucker for posting this on X. So as Alex is talking, I'm going to put this up there. I just want to make sure I give Billy Tucker some credit. But go ahead and continue talking, Alex.
Okay, cool. And then that music could get us copyright.
Okay, if the music's fine, I can kill the music.
Okay. So when you watch him, what's so impressive about him is that you recognize he can win in just a variety of different ways, right? So he's got the huddle reel and the highlights that, like I said earlier, I don't want this to become a comparing everybody to DK Moore thing because it's just really hard to
look at that.
So you just say it's like,
Alex.
But you see, that's a different way to win, right? Yeah. That right there looks like one of these things where, look, he's only 170 pounds, but look how much bigger than he plays like here.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And it's just like he brings a bunch of intriguing things to his skill set. Good getting out of his breaks there. He can create separation, but it's just whenever you stack up. Did you see the framing outside the frame of his body?
His lower body's so strong, Alex.
Yep.
His lower body, you can't do that without lower body strength, man.
Right, and also just takes a lot of hand-eye coordination. Like, he's got this stuff after catch that reminds you of a little bit of Quentin Johnston whenever he was at TCU, where you're like, man, how is he so good with this run after catch stuff when he's actually really good like this, stacking, getting even, leaving. Good, good extension there with the late hands. And so
catching the Holy Ghost watching this boy play. Let me watch this again. My goodness.
Just natural ability to create separation. You've seen the right there, the physicality at the catch point. He's definitely a guy that plays a lot bigger than he is, but he does not sacrifice the quicks that he has with that sort of real good lower body strength that Anwar talked about. We talked about the great hands, the ball tracking, the frame, the framing ability. You can also, it's not on his, I haven't really seen it here, but he does on the huddle reel have just some real kind of highlight.
By the way, look at the cameraman trying to keep up with him on the sideline there, Alex. Look at it. Look at this cameraman.
Yeah, that guy's gonna tear an Achilles. Yeah. Dude. Oh, and one other thing, you're not going to see it here, but this dude's a kick butt run blocker too. And that Chris Jackson loves that. If you watch any of the games outside of the highlights, you can really see he takes a lot of pride in his run blocking. He just, dude, he wants to win in all aspects. He's tough with the ball in his hands. He's tough when he's got the my ball toughness to him. So to me, it's like, whenever you take all the things, and when I wrote it up, it's like that versatility, right, and that swagger, just a really tough-minded player, right? And when you stack up all the attributes, right, we talk stacking them, getting even with them, being able to run past guys, being able to use your elusiveness in space, not only with your change of direction and things like that, but almost with a little bit of physical force. Right. Just so that real kind of swag. So I think when you take all those things and add them all up, it's like you're beginning to stack a lot of traits. He's a good player. He's a take all the way. It's like all these guys, man. I mean, all of them.
Yes.
They're all really good. Like Khalif Lockett, I think he's like probably a top 10 dude in state, regardless of position. So yeah, I don't know what you have on.
Oh no, I mean, look, I just said it. I don't have anything else. I just said it. He's a baller. Like I said, I like the lower body strength that he has there. Some upper body strength, obviously, to pop up the way he does. He can make the tough catches, Alex. Like he can go. You saw that. He can go up in traffic and he can make those tough catches. He's got a good long stride on him, Alex. He's. Again, like you can't go wrong. He's a guy, and again, Katie, put Katie Jordan. He's playing against good competition there, so I know this is certified, bona fide. Like, okay, this is what he's doing. I don't know what his numbers were from last year, Alex. I don't know what his stats were. I don't know if
I didn't pull those up. I guess for some when I was doing McCutchen, I was interested in seeing his just because the Livingstone stuff, but I didn't pull him up for Andrew Marsh. We can how about this? Like some numbers that I do have. You can look that up, and I'm going to tell people about 10% off.
Oh,
10% off of your beef at Texas Beef Traders. All you got to do is just tell them that you heard from them here. Look, I went to Texas Beef Traders on Friday. Guess what Darren and Dan did? They brought out a delicious three ways cooked bavette steak with mushrooms and potatoes. And mind you, this is all free. They gave me a choice whether I wanted some sangria wine or some this delicious beer they had from someplace in the Pacific Northwest. I said, you know what? Bring me both. I want to have them both. I want to eat some of this steak. I want to eat some of these mushrooms, all of it. And little do you know, next thing you know, people are just walking in from right there in the heart of Lakeway, coming in saying, man, all this smells good. What is this? It's like, hey, man, it's free steak. It's free steak. And people came in, you get your toothpicks, you're eating your steak, you're eating your mushrooms. Next thing you know, they're bringing out a whole nother ribeye. They want you to taste the food at Texas Beef Traders, TexasBeefTraders.com. Have you tried it? Because if you haven't, you can just scan the QR code. You can go there. You can go into the store, go see them. They'll cook you a burger. They'll bring out steaks. They'll bring out charcuterie. They'll let you try the food. Especially if you're there on a Friday, a Saturday, or a Sunday. They're cooking the whole time. You have to go experience it. And look, I not everyone can make it into Lakeway. So if you can't make it into Lakeway, look, just call them. They will bring it to you. Remember, no vaccinations, no inoculations, no anything like this. Non-GMO. All this is delicious, delicious food right from Mason, Texas. It was processed literally a week ago. Whenever you eat it, it's processed a week ago. Dude, hamburger there for like gourmet hamburgers, if you want to make them at night, $4 a pound. That's before your 10% discount. It's cheaper than the grocery store. I don't know what else I can tell you. And here's the best part. If you can't make it out to Lakeway, just call them. They will bring it to you for free. Well, you have to pay for the meat, but they'll deliver for free. Texas Beef Traders, TexasBeefTraders.com. All right,
Alex. All right. Real quick, but never not to be short of that any stretch of imagination. If you're looking for a home in the DFW area, don't have to look any further. If you're out there, you're looking for a house, looking to sell a house, whatever it is, trying to get into the housing market, Eric Sells Homes DFW's got you covered. He will make sure that it's buying and selling made easily. Don't get taken advantage of. Don't get screwed over in any of your transactions. Eric Sells Homes DFW will make sure he's got you covered, especially all you recruits out there that are about to get some of your NIL money. The cars are nice. Go buy yourself a house and have something that's going to stay with you forever. Eric Sells Homes DFW. Check it out. Check out the QR code as well. We're going to bring back in Alex. And you know what? Just because it's so good. Jason Sucamel is going to be in here. All right, Alex, don't look. I need you to guess the hat that Jason Sucamel is going to be wearing when he comes in. Now, it's going to probably be Adidas, potentially Steelers, Yankees.
Adidas.
You're going to go with the Adidas? I'm going to go with the Rivals hat. That's my guess. It's going to be the Rivals hat. Let's find out. Surveys. Oh, shoot. Damn it. Survey says.
What is that?
Sandman gets it. Sandman. It's not black, Sandman. It's just dinky dark blue. Come on.
So Jason, we tried to get. I mean, we just started talking so much about Dalen McCutchen and Andrew Marsh that we didn't even get through the rest of these guys. I was hoping I could just share the screen. I still, even though we're not going to get to our breakdown of Decorian Moore. I just want to ask you guys if you saw this video of him. Do you guys care if I put it up? Just
no. Go ahead.
Okay, so
receiver in the nation, Decorian Moore. And this dude trains different. He works out with non-stick weighted gloves.
They slippery and weighted. You gotta have strong fingertips at the end.
There's even rumors that Logan Paul is gonna sign him to a Prime Hydration NIL deal when he gets to college. And Decorian has been getting coached by wide receiver guru David Robinson.
Throwing you a basketball. So you're working on getting your hands spread out wide.
His top 4 schools right now are Ohio State, Texas, Oregon, and LSU. Let us know in the comments which school should he choose. This is the number 1.
Can you believe this?
Alex, give whoever credit. Who posted that?
Oh, that's from. Oh, so it's from the QB club, and it's from my guy, Coach D-Rob, man. So
okay,
it's Coach D-Rob who's the one who shared it. It looks like the person who made it on Instagram is called the QB plug. You can follow Coach D-Rob at d.rob always open. So
yeah. Okay, cool. All right.
Did you see those gloves? Weighted gloves with the slippery hands. He's making it hard on him, and that's what we say. Whenever Decorian Moore flashes those super fast hands, that's how you do it. It's like training like that. It's crazy. But anyway, we didn't get a chance to talk about him. I had that video queued up, and I wanted to at least play it before Jason.
So I remember when I could jump like that. Yeah.
so far, Jason. So to catch you up, we've talked about Dalen McCutchen, who's coming in this weekend. We also had a chance to talk about. We were on Andrew Marsh. Okay. I loved his film. Like I absolutely love that. Ironically, Jason, that's the first time we mentioned Decorian Moore, and we hadn't talked about Kelshawn Johnson yet. But we're talking about the 4 guys who are coming in this weekend. Can you give us your general thoughts before we maybe ask you about each guy individually?
Yeah, we talking like recruiting, scouting. What are we
recruiting? Your recruiting thoughts on some of those guys and maybe where they stand with Texas. Is Texas in it higher for some than the others?
Yeah, I would say if I was ranking them in terms of Texas's chances, I'd probably put Decorian first.
And That's
Yeah.
good news.
And then it gets tricky. I would have said Kelshawn Johnson. I've got my future cast in, or I have a future cast in for Texas with Kelshawn, but he visited A&M last week. There's some moving parts here. Texas brings in a receiver called Tanuk Hines last week. So, is there some shifting going on there? There's a lot of people now that think maybe A&M might lead for Kelshawn Johnson. In fact, I'm going to hit him up today just to make sure he's still even coming into Texas this weekend. I think he will. But I'd probably put Kelshawn second, probably Dalen McCutchen third, and then Andrew Marsh maybe fourth. Marsh is a tough guy to read. We've talked a bunch about him. He visits a bazillion different places, so it's really hard to read where he might wind up, and he's not planning on committing till November. So still some time for movement there. But is
that a different thing than usual, Jason? Nowadays, waiting till it feels like a lot of these guys like, man, before the senior year, I'm going to do it. If for nothing else, just to kind of get locked in case I get hurt.
Yeah, and it is very abnormal. I mean, you have a couple guys here and there, but his dad is late father is military. Alex, I think maybe was killed in combat. I'm pretty sure that's true. So I think, is it November? Is that which holiday is it? It's terrible. I should know, but
I mean, there's Thanksgiving. I don't maybe it's not Memorial Day. That would be for service members who were killed. I think maybe Veterans Day.
Veterans Day. I think you're right. Thank you. I think it's Veterans Day. So to honor his father and just other soldiers, he's planning on doing them. I think it's Veterans Day. Yeah.
Okay, so all right. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but that just it seems
it's an interesting story. And listen, Andrew Marsh, I mean, awesome kid. But and I talked to him.
Veterans Day is November 11th.
Okay, so that will be it. Yeah, and he and I talked. It was actually last summer. It was a year ago, and he had put something on Twitter about honoring his father. And I asked him, I said, "Hey, was your dad?" We talked for like 10 seconds. Killed in action, and he said, "Yeah," but it's kind of just in passing, and I said, "Hey, would you be willing to talk about that at some point? I think it'd be an interesting feature story." And he said, "Yeah, absolutely." But I wanted to get my ducks in a row and kind of, that was a story I wanted to really put some thought into. But awesome kid, but so that's why he's waiting until November.
So do you think that so you said it was more Kelshawn, then McCutchen, and then Marsh?
In terms of odds for Texas, I'd probably rank them like that.
Okay,
that's interesting. Now, let me ask you this though. After this week, Jason, if I've read it correctly, he's Decorian's taking a trip out to Oregon.
Yep.
And I have to ask, Duncanville, okay, coached by Coach Samples, correct? Rashad Samples is the receivers coach that's out there in Oregon. Are we overlooking Oregon by any stretch of the possibility? Because Rashad, does anybody has a Duncanville connection? It's Rashad Samples.
Sure. Yeah, I think people are overlooking Oregon. Ohio State is the new buzz team after he visited there 2 weekends ago. Of course, he was at LSU last weekend, and LSU re-entered the picture, which people were surprised about. I'm like, man, have you guys not been following recruiting? Like, every time somebody visits somewhere, that team is going to be the buzz team, right? It's going to be Texas after this weekend. But Anwar, I'm telling you, man, back in March and April, I talked to some people, and they thought if he didn't go to LSU, which obviously everybody thought he was going to flip at some point, they said Texas or Oregon. And Ohio State was in the picture at that point, but they really surged whenever he took that official visit 2 weeks ago. You mentioned it. Rashad Samples is there. He's been to Oregon. He likes it. Oregon's got NIL capabilities, as strong as any program in the country. So they've got a fun offense. I mean, Oregon's got a lot to sell. I'm not discounting Oregon in that race. I think they're playing from behind right now. But hey, Oregon will be the buzz team when he visits there, next week. And people will be talking about how blown away he was by Oregon too. So, but yeah, Oregon. A couple of months, 2-3 months ago, people thought Oregon might be playing the second favorite team in this race. I'm not discounting Oregon by any means. Someone says Rodolfo Mama isn't let him go to Oregon. Rodolfo, I'm not so sure Mama wouldn't follow him to Oregon. Depending on how the situation unfolds.
I mean, with NIL deals nowadays, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you get Mama a nice crib in Oregon, and she can put her feet up and relax.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know what her situation is in terms of jobs or what she wants to do. I've never talked to her about that kind of stuff. But you're right, Almar, with NIL stuff. Hey, my son gets a huge NIL deal. I'm going to retire and just come be your manager from afar. Yes.
What, Jason? What is Texas like? What would represent? What's okay? What's the best way to put this? What can Texas fans expect coming out of what is it unreasonable to expect that coming out of this weekend, say Decorian Moore could commit to Texas? What's the best possible expectation for Texas coming out of this thing? And what would you say if we come out of this thing and you're telling us on Sunday, well, this happened, maybe that would not be best case scenario? What's the range of outcomes here?
That's a good question. I don't think anything's unreasonable. We're talking recruiting. We're talking teenagers who are going into their senior years of high school. I would be surprised if he committed, Alex, but I don't listen. If he just comes here and says, you know what, man, I'm just kind of done with this. This is where I want to be. Let's make a huge splash. Let's try to get some momentum going. I don't expect it, but I don't think it's unreasonable to put that on the table. But I think a reasonable expectation on the positive side would be to have Decorian or his mother, because Decorian's not doing a lot of interviews, but come out and say, hey, Texas just blew us away. The same thing they said about Ohio State. Ohio State set the bar super high, and that's the bar everybody's going to have to reach. If they say, hey, Texas set a new bar, okay, that would be, I think, about as best case scenario you can get in terms of, in terms of a public acknowledgement. Worst case scenario, I can't even fathom a worst case scenario because, worst case scenario, you get them coming out and say, yeah, it was a good visit, but we still want to explore other options. He's still torn. I don't think you'll hear that from Decorian. I think you'll hear nothing but positive reviews from Decorian and people around him and people inside the program. I expect Texas is going to knock it out of the park this weekend, like they do pretty much every weekend with official visits. So, Rodolfo says best case, he gives a silent. Yeah, Rodolfo, that's not out of the question by any means. But in terms of public recognition, I think them just saying, hey, Texas matched or even set a higher bar than Ohio State, I think would be a good public declaration for Texas.
How many kids these days per class are at some point silent commitments, you think, just on average?
Man, it's changed, dude. Like, I don't buy the whole silent commitment stuff as much. If a guy says, hey, if he gives indication to the coaches he's coming, and it's not always the words, I want to commit, silent commit. It's just like, coach, hey, I'm going to be here. But then they still want to take 3-4 other visits. Is that really a commitment, dude? I mean, for
it's a
really,
silent one. I mean, I
don't think so. Is Brandon Brown a commitment? I mean, Brandon Brown has visited Tennessee. He's visited LSU. He said, hey, yeah, there's 4 schools. Last week after Tennessee, he said, I'm still considering these 4 schools. Well, then you're not committed to Texas. Dude, you're not. So, I would say from a, technical aspect, maybe 5, 6, 7 guys give silent commitments, but I don't really count a silent commitment if a guy says, I'm going to silently commit, but I'm going to take 3 other visits and I'm going to announce 2 months from now. That's not a silent commitment to me.
So, where are we right now? Because it seems like, Jason, Texas is literally shooting for the stars as relates to the receivers, that are out there. We were just watching. Was it like Michael Terry just the other day, and we had a conversation, and Alex and I were talking about him yesterday. Obviously, we're talking to Decorian Moore. We still have Lockett that's on the board. Can you get them all, Jason? Or they just basically net fishing at this moment, and whoever that comes up in that net is what they're going to get because it ain't pole fishing at this moment.
Yeah, I don't think you can get them all. Jamie French. There was a lot of talk a few weeks ago. Everybody's excited about Jamie French and Khalil Lockett and Decorian Moore wanting to play together. And I've been on record as saying, hey, I can make a case where Texas is a leader for every one of those 3 guys, right? These are all 5-star type talents. But if you're asking me collectively, is Texas going to get all 3 of them? I don't think so. I mean, those guys say the right things, and when they're together, and like, oh yeah, we want to play together. But they're also smart, dude. They know if they go with 2 other 5-star receivers after Ryan Wingo and Jonte Cook the year before, it might be a tough path to playing time. So I think when push comes to shove, it's going to be tough to get all three of those guys, those 5-star types, but they've definitely got a lot of irons in the fire. I mean, they pushed for a commitment from Kelshawn Johnson a couple months ago, and we're close to getting him. Anwar, it's hard to predict how the dominoes are going to fall here, but I do think Texas is going to get a couple of those, that trio that I mentioned. Mm-hmm. Then you sprinkle in a couple others. Maybe it is a Tanuk Hines, maybe it's a Kelshawn Johnson. You sprinkle in a few other wide receiver guys, and they'll get a good 4 or 5 man class. But I think sweeping the board with those top guys is going to be really, really tough.
Hey, Alice, give me a second for a quick. As it relates to Kelshawn Johnson, Jason, where does he want to play? Because he plays DB, obviously.
No, he's a receiver. He's
he's recruited as a receiver.
Yeah, he's a pure receiver. Tanuk, you might be thinking Tanuk Hines, who visited last week. He can play DB and receiver, but he's being recruited as a receiver also. But yeah, Kelshawn's a pure receiver. He's a guy to Hitchcock, smaller guy. They kind of compare him to Xavier Worthy because he's not Xavier Worthy fast, but he's fast. He's kind of got that slight frame, if you will, but can do a lot of things in the open field, can take the top off of a defense. So they're recruiting him as a pure receiver. There's some buzz that A&M moved up to the top of his list last week. There's some people that will tell you, oh, yeah, I think he gave A&M a silent commitment. Well, I'm not buying all that. He's visiting Texas this weekend. I'm going to be curious. We'll see if he still visits. I think he will. How much pressure Texas puts on him, because Texas has so many just irons in the fire at the receiver position. They've got a lot of options. And if they feel really good about Tanuk Hines and Khalil Lockett and Jamie French and Decorian Moore, are they still going to push Kelshawn and say, dude, we need you to commit? And it wouldn't surprise me if they said, hey, Kelshawn, you've been close to committing before. We've been your top dog for a long time. We know A&M's come on strong lately, but listen, your heart, we think in your heart, this is where you want to be. Let's do it this weekend. If not, hey, man, we might have to look elsewhere. So really interesting at the receiver position. We're still waiting for that first kind of shoe to drop. But again, they've got a lot of options out there and a lot of really good options.
A lot of really cool people in the Specs chat right now. Almost 800 of you guys. Thanks so much for tuning in here today. Please remember to like the show and subscribe to the channel. We do get our pay docked if we don't have as many likes as there are people watching, and there are almost 800 watching right now. So thanks to you guys, and also thanks to our great sponsor Specs for providing the Specs chat line. Let's go ahead and hear from Specs really quickly.
Specs same-day delivery can save the day with our Specs app or online shopping. From world-class wines to hard-to-find spirits and craft beers to gourmet foods, delicious snacks, and spectacular sweets. It's Specs. Cheers to savings.
All right. Thanks very much to Specs. Thanks for Jason Sukamel, of course, for being on. You can go check out his you have the 321 or a recruiting column or something up right now?
321 I posted late last night, so it's up this morning. It's got several interviews from guys who visited last weekend and predictions on some of those guys and things like that.
So we'll have that. Like I said, Cody and Carpentier and I, we broke up the 16 visitors from this weekend. We're gonna do little mini breakdowns of all those guys. I'll do 8 of them. Cody will do 8 of them. We had a little draft yesterday after our Orange Bloods meeting where we got to pick them one by one. But anyway, so wanted to add, so go to Orange Bloods, check all that. It's going to be a ton of content. It's going to be a big weekend coming up. Jason, what would be the optimal order of operations for these? Would it be optimal to maybe get a Decorian Moore on the boat first? Because you said, first off, are you thinking this is a 4 or 5 man class? You kind of hinted at that earlier as far as
I think so. Yeah, I think it'd be 5 if they can get the right guys. I mean, they're not going to turn down Jamie French if he wants to commit in late August. He's got a late August commitment date. So, I think they'll go 4, Alex, and I think they'd go up to 5 if the right guys want to come aboard.
Does Decorian Moore have a date that he said?
Not a firm date. He's just probably going to be this summer. I mean, usually July, maybe August. But when August comes around, those guys kind of shift their into their own fall camps mindset. So I think July would be a potential target date for him and a lot of these other guys.
Now, look, it'd be a terrific problem to have, but do you think that there's like we haven't talked much about Dalen McCutchen. I think that guy's a good player. I think he'd be an excellent slot player at the next level. He actually, I don't know if it's just that number 11 he wears and seen him with the Ohio State gear wearing it, but he kind of reminds me of Jackson Smith and Jigba. Isn't Jackson Smith and Jigba kind of from that same area of Texas too?
Yeah, they're both from up in the somewhat DFW area. I don't know. How big is Jackson Smith and Jigba?
Let me see. So he was I think he's 190 something just when he got done with college.
In terms of, well, I guess, okay, Dalen, we got him listed at 6 foot. I'm not sure if he's quite 6 foot, but yet, Dalen, he won MVP at the Under Armour camp wide receiver, and there's some good receivers there. Doesn't get talked about enough, maybe because it's such a deep receiver class in the state of Texas and guys Texas is recruiting, but he's a really good player, really good productive player. Think about what he's going to do. Todd Dodge now up there, so at Lovejoy. So I look for him to have a huge senior season, very productive, very skilled, very technical. Again, I like to highlight these things. Awesome kid too, really awesome. I mean, high character kid. So I think he'll do well in college from that regard. He puts in the work. So, I think Texas has a chance there, but I don't know. I just get the vibe like he might, Ohio State, Florida State's a school that gets talked about a lot with him, Southern Cal. I don't think there's necessarily an in-state draw that's going to help Texas the way it does with some kids, okay? I think Dalen McCutchen's very open to the idea of going out of state. I don't have a prediction on him, but I mean, I know just in talking to him a few times, Florida State's a school that really has his attention.
So let's just quickly, Onward, let me just follow up. It must be something about those Lovejoy, because like Parker Livingstone's like a pleasure to deal with too. It's like this guy. There's something about I guess Coach Dodge up there. It's
his first year up there, but year before that, I'm drawing a blank. He went to LSU as another receiver, awesome kid. So something in the water up there.
Yeah, man, they're just they're up there running a tight ship. I don't expect you to know this, but is the Lovejoy quarterback a prospect that people are keeping an eye on right now?
I'm not honestly, Alex. I'm not sure who it is.
Okay.
I should probably know those questions more, but if he's not on Texas's radar, my brain has a hard enough keeping up with guys Texas is recruiting.
It could turn out that he's a sophomore or something. But if he, I'm going to look into who he is, because that wasn't just I really like his ball placement whenever you watch the McCutchen stuff. Onward,
I just wanted to ask you quickly, about Marsh. I know you mentioned him a little bit earlier. Like you say, he doesn't talk as much, but he is coming, this weekend. I see on Rivals, I see there's a future cast in here for A&M as relates to him. I'm just kind of curious, the recruitment of Marsh, like where does that stand heading into the weekend?
Yeah, that future cast, one of them is from none other than Jeff Ketchum, okay, back in February, and the other one is from an A&M reporter in January. Andrew is he's kind of taken a step back from doing a lot of interviews and things. He's a very personable guy, but he just kind of, he hasn't talked as much about recruiting. He's taken some visits. In fact, I'm going to follow up with him today, because that Texas visit was on the books like months and months and months ago. So I'm going to follow up and just to say, hey, just confirming, make sure that visit's still on. But like in our database, we've got Oklahoma next week, a midweek visit to Kentucky this week. He's been to Washington, it looks like, Southern Cal. Doesn't even have an A&M visit set. I don't know if I need to double check to see if that's accurate. But, I know there was some summer buzz with A&M on Andrew Marsh, with USC a little bit here and there too, a little bit with Texas. I've just never gotten the feeling with Andrew Marsh that he likes Texas and he's visited Texas a bunch, but I've never got the impression he's leaning to Texas. Now, I know after he visited Texas A&M one time, I think it was in the summer or in the spring, excuse me, there started to be a lot of buzz, and that's when you saw some of these future casts and other things come in and people predicting A&M. But I'm telling you, with Andrew, he's a tough kid to read. I don't have a good feeling on where he might wind up. Again, if he's not announced until November, he's going to take some more visits this summer. I expect he'll take some in the fall too. He's a guy that'll take well over 5 official visits. I just don't have a good read on where he's going to wind up. I know there was A&M buzz, so I understand that's why there's a couple future casts. Maybe that's what people are saying. But that was from like January and February. I mean, that was a long time ago. So a lot can change, and a lot I think still will change with Andrew Marsh.
Follow up with him, Jason, because I just noticed this morning he's following me on Twitter. So
it's okay. All right.
Whatever that's worth. I'm not a recruiting guy, so if this guy's randomly following me, he's interested in Texas stuff in some way. So you might want to check on that, Jason.
I'll hit up Andrew, and his mom is like I mentioned, his dad is deceased. I'll hit her up too. She's a wonderful lady. I've talked to her at a couple different recruiting events and always enjoy catching up with her. So it'd be a good time to kind of just check in with those guys and make sure they're still coming this weekend and then see what the plans are after that.
Yeah. Last one from me, Jason. And it's a 2-part question. Just with the, outside of just the wide receivers, what's the one thing this weekend that you think is the biggest storyline to follow among the guys who are coming in? And what's one thing that's a storyline to follow that you think could be surprising to people?
Okay, let me look. So I'm looking at the list of guys coming in. One thing I would say to follow closely would be Texas commitment. Brandon Brown is coming in. I mentioned he visited Tennessee last weekend. He's visited LSU and Bo Davis. Is Texas going to be able to tighten that one up? He's, for all intents and purposes, he's pretty much wide open at this point between those 3 schools. I think maybe USC is still involved there. So can Texas maybe reel that back in and kind of get him more firmly committed after he gets a weekend with Kenny Baker, with the current team members, the other coaches, Coach Sark and everybody. So that's one I'll be watching closely. And then your other question was a surprise?
What's something that maybe by the end of the weekend, something that you could see happening or the events unfolding in this way, they could be a surprise to people?
Well, this isn't a surprise, but there's a couple guys. Jonte Newman is an offensive lineman who's committed to A&M. He was scheduled to visit back in late April. He was coming. I actually hit him up yesterday. He hasn't responded. Now Texas has 3 offensive line commits, so we'll see if they still bring him in. There's another guy, Nick Brooks, an offensive lineman out of Cedar Rapids, Iowa, who's a big-time player. He visited USC last week. There's some scuttlebutt out there that he gave USC a silent commitment, so I'm trying to see if he's still making it in. That's not necessarily surprising, but it's just a couple of things I'll be watching to see if this visit list gets maybe pared down by a couple other spots. Can Texas really make headway with a couple of these out-of-state guys like they did last week? There's 2 guys coming in, Marco Jones and John Mills. One's a defensive lineman. Marco's a defensive lineman. John Mills, an offensive lineman. They're both out of California. And can Texas make headway and maybe even put themselves as the outright leader for either or both of those guys? I think they can, Alex. I think coming out of this weekend.
Which one's Marco Jones?
He's a linebacker edge player out of Cali. He's out of Danville, San Raymond Valley. I actually was texting with him last night.
I didn't even have him on my list. I just have these 16 players on this list. I didn't have Marco Jones.
He visited A&M last week. He's got Texas. He's got Southern Cal. He's a guy that I just added. I mean, he and I were texting last night. And he said, yeah, he's coming in. So, but he's a guy that, in talking to West Coast people, he really likes Texas. Obviously, Texas likes him. They're bringing him in. John Mills is the offensive lineman who I have Texas as the leader. So I'll be curious coming out of this weekend if I think there's a chance. I wouldn't be surprised if you hear both of these California guys saying, hey, yeah, Texas is kind of setting the pace for both of those guys.
All right, Jason. Thank you so much, man. We will see you a little bit later on today on the podcast. Right?
All right, fellas. See you in a few hours.
All right, Jason. Thanks, you, brother.
Jason.
All right, there he is. Jason Sukamel. As always, thanks for coming on, and thanks to everybody in the chat, man. Anwar, I think we did it, brother. Anything you got to tell the people before we get out?
First of all, to Brad, when am I going on the SEC podcast again? Mike has turned into a Texas hater and needs to be straightened out. Probably at SEC Media Days is when Mike and I will catch up, and I will definitely find out and get to the bottom of what the hell is happening.
You can give that guy a credential?
He's got like.
I thought you said he could play in last time because they didn't give him a credential to the meetings, league meetings.
Oh, I think the spring meetings he doesn't go to, but they don't allow you to do broadcasts. from there. So it's pretty much just print people that go to the spring meetings. But for his podcast, I think he's got like 80,000 subscribers or something like that. So he's got the most popular SEC podcast out there. I'll take care of it. Don't worry about it. I'll handle the SEC mic when I need to handle it. You guys go enjoy the rest of your day. Once again, happy birthday to my son, the youngest son. I only got 2, so he's by default 6 years old today. Happy birthday to you, Titan. About to call you again. You guys enjoy the rest of your day. Remember, I always say, live each day like it was your last, because one day it will be Alex.
Now, you can email me, alex@rosterwatch.com. Follow us on X at Alex Dunlap NFL, at Anwar Richardson. Find all of our content relating to the Texas Longhorns over at orangebloods.com. Go out today, man. Go have a good day. Man, make it a good day. Make it a big day. Go out and do something big today, dude. We'll see you guys tomorrow for Anwar.